Dude, there's so much to talk about in this video. All right, welcome back to another commentary. I believe this has been the most requested, most tweeted, most everything, Metal Gear Sunrising. I forgot that we'd never actually done a proper breakdown of the VFX. I thought we did because we did it behind the scenes, but the behind the scenes was just that. It was like behind the scenes footage, and we never actually did the breakdown of the effects. But the good news is we just went through our files. We still have everything, and so we should be able to answer all your questions. However, before you ask, just know, none of the effects in this video were very easy. Without further ado, let's watch the video together, and I'll talk more about it, break it down frame by frame afterwards. If you haven't seen American Psycho, see American Psycho. It's one of the better movies. This is a straight reference to American Psycho.
I'm staying at the American Gardens building on the 31st floor. My name is Raiden. I've been a cyborg for over 6 years. I believe in taking care of myself and a balanced diet and a rigorous exercise.
Dude, there's so much to talk about in this video. This apartment especially.
In the morning, if my face is a little rusty, I'll start with tarnish remover.
I still have every single bottle of polish. I probably used them like 2 or 3 times. Like, this much metal polish will last you a lifetime.
Anti-corrosive, which
that is a fact.
10 minutes.
But
while I
there's been like one time where someone's like, "Oh, do we have anything for this?" And I'm like, "I got every single product in the store."
I'll apply WD-40 to my limbs.
All of the brass stuff.
Always use water displacement when lubricating, because non-WD will leave you squeaky. For conditioning, I do push-ups.
I can do
thousands now.
Yes, this is the actual voice actor. This is Quentin. More on that and how we got him later, I guess. We'll go into it. Oh, yeah. It starts out so calm. The calm before the storm, right? All real fruit. Except for the last one. Okay, for that, too. So we're like, oh, CG fruit looks so good. Secret's not CG. Except for this one, that one's CG. Raiden eats every peel. That's where all the nutrients are.
There's
a metal man. He doesn't really care.
Raiden. Some kind of abstraction. But there is no real me. Only a soldier. Something mechanical. And though I can hide my cold gaze, and you
spreading that on there, don't have a clue what's about to happen to us.
Gripping yours, and maybe you can even sense that I
We're basically GTA characters sitting down there, just shooting the day away.
Is always there.
Goat scream. Here it comes. It's the best. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 slices. That's how many gets to the center. And no, it did actually happen. He was just making smoothie, and you know what? Okay. That's the video. Alright. Let's go to the back. First of all, dude, there are so many things to talk about in this video. I don't even know where to start. It turns out that Kojima-san is a fan of the videos. So when it came time for this, Kojima was a major proponent of, he wanted, and this is something they didn't really do, Konami never really done before, but they wanted to get somebody to make, they wanted us to make a video for it. Something about the Raiden character, because I started Metal Gear Solid, I mean, obviously I played it since the beginning. I played, but Metal Gear Solid 2 when Raiden showed up, kind of latched onto the whole, like, Jack the Ripper thing and this whole, like, alter ego child soldier thing. So I'm like, you know what if we had, like, kind of put a little American Psycho in there? So blend that in there and throw in a dash of, kind of playing off as, like, it's like Raiden's got this sort of, like, this is maybe taking place after sort of the events. He's got his like PTSD where he's triggered by the blender. The whole idea of building up to the idea, he's got this routine, this very specific routine. He's not quite all himself, and when he uses his blender, it makes him think of himself as like the human blender, and he kind of goes on this murderous fantasy as he's a human blender going around. They asked, "What do we need?" And we're like, we need a budget, we need money, because I've got to get a really nice apartment. You got to have, you know, there's all sorts of stuff that's going to go into this that are a little bit above and beyond what we normally do. 2, if you have it, you need a sword. Konami's like, no problem, Brandon. We'll get you the sword. We'll get you the one and only sword that we've made as a replica of it, and they've never asked for it back, so it's still ours to this day. It hangs above our TV. Third thing, we're like, we need the voice actor. We need Quentin, if at all possible. It'd be so great to have the actual, they're like, done. Anything else, we're like, nope. Time to get a cosplayer, because there's no like Raiden costume, so borrowed this costume from a guy named Jeff, who had made this for himself, and he was gracious enough to mail it to us to use, and then playing Raiden as our stuntman extraordinaire, Eric. This apartment was like, to rent this apartment, it's like something like $5,500 a month. It's crazy. And it's only like 2 bedrooms. So it's really nice. We're like, this is the kind of place that you could see Raiden live. It's a little bit futuristic, you know, downtown LA here, and it was high enough. High is very important because we need to get him up there, you know, then going forward. So he goes through his routine. I kind of, if you guys follow the channel, so you know, I like this kind of escalation where it's like, you don't really know where this video is going. It's called Metal Gear Sunrising. Like, what could this video possibly be about? You're watching it, you know, it's got some pretty, it's enough to keep your attention, then it kind of gets increasingly weird. So this is one of the rare times I ever use a dolly track. Put the camera in a dolly track, and it's just using a rubber band. So instead of pushing it directly, because if you try to push it, you'll be kind of like stuttery. So instead, we just put a rubber band on it and just pull the rubber band and let the tension of the rubber band pull it. So you kind of have this little like natural spring buffer, and then go as smooth as we can. And we just like, Eric, how many push-ups can you do? And he's like, I can do thousands. And it turned out he couldn't do thousands. He could do a lot of push-ups. So he did all of his push-ups, and we just shot it as slow as possible, sped it up, and then took it and rotoed him out, and then added a motion blur to it, so that it's so basically he has, in order to make it look less like it's sped up footage and more like he's just actually going that fast, we had to have the appropriate motion blur. And then TV, some of the video from Metal Gear Solid 4. Then we get to the oranges. So this is starting to start to take shape of what this video actually is. We got the Fruit Ninja himself. That's just no effect, just pull and focus on it as it comes up. Just take 5 shots. Kevin, this is the first of a few of Kevin's signature effects in here. This is probably easier than it looks, but it's all in this sort of the preservation of using light correctly. We're trying to simulate what it would look like, kind of like through his vision. Also in the game Metal Gear Rising, they have like this sort of like slice that you can line up. So to make this effect, 3D track of the shot so you know where the camera's moving. Then rebuild a 3D scene where you model the geometry. Not in detail, just rough, sort of, because ultimately the light, you have to imagine if there's light emitting where it hits the wall, there's gonna be this bright highlight. So we need to have the right shape. So if we have the camera tracked and moving through that scene, and we have that scene modeled, then we can project a line out, which is the light, and kind of get that line, which is then used for compositing. And then in terms of this is a plane with a texture on it that is then rendered out, and then a lot of it comes down to the compositing. The raw layers that don't look anything like this. It's all about getting kind of the building blocks that you need that are tracked and nestled into that shot, putting them there, and then using compositing and preservation. You have to work with light in a linear way and make sure you're using it in an additive way so that the light projecting out will work the way it is. Then fade out that effect. With this, we had, everyone commented they thought that all the fruit was, they're like, how did you do that CG fruit? So the secret of this fruit, so faded out the effect. So you always gotta clean up your VFX. Well, you only use them where you need them. Use them to get your impact. No reason to put that effect in this shot too, so just had it for a little bit, then faded it out. The fruit here, the secret was, the fruit is actually real, but instead of dropping it, we had it on a string. So put a little string there, hung the fruit, and then cut through it. And just kind of got the slice again, and then just cut away with it before you'd see. So this fruit is still on a string. If you imagine it on a string, you can imagine it's kind of flying up like that, but just cut away before it. You can actually see it starts to rock back there. Fruit shouldn't rock back like that. And then before the sword hits it, I just painted in the background and hand animated the fruit dropping a little bit. Same thing with, so the bananas, because this would be a hard thing to paint over, those aren't actually dropping at all. Those are just hanging there in a string. Getting whacked, but it's all in slow motion, so, it's all the same. Boom. Now there's parts of bananas. Another orange, swinging down. You can kind of see on the sword where it was painted in there a little bit. It's a little bit different, but doesn't matter when it's playing at good speed. Boom, nice clean hit from Eric. Strawberry, once again, just dropping it in there. Takes it out. You can see the top of it was on the string, flies off, doesn't even matter, don't see it. Sword's not sharp, but you know what? Swing it fast enough, it's heavy enough. Goes right through. Oh yeah, is that one a difference? Oh, that one is a real sword. We had a real sword for some of that, but this one went through it fine too. Now this one was the only CG one, so this one I'm essentially standing up on a chair with my legs out, and we've measured it out carefully when he swings so that he won't cut my legs. And then he swings it while I kind of move the camera down through. And then later on, 3D track that shot, match move. There's a lot of good corners here to use for tracking points, and then add these CG oranges. And effectively, the CG orange is actually just 2 orange halves with an orange texture on there. And then when the sword goes through it, just hand animating it so it comes out, and then the little chunks is all just a particle system. So the particles, whoosh, fling them out there, and then we have, of course, the little trails on the sword blade there. So it turns out, I mean, the CG fruit actually ended up looking better than if we would have known how well it was going to look, we probably would have done more CG fruit shots, to be honest, but I didn't know if we'd have time to do it all. So this effect was actually, he's green screened in there, so shot the plate there, and then actually went and used some scaffolding and a green screen and had him jump over, so that way we could get the effect of him clearing over. Found something that was about the right height, so there's a pole there. He jumps over, goes over, so put that together, and then just hand animate him down. And then that brings us to this shot. There's a lot of elements in this shot. And I guess in order to really build up to something like this, it kind of requires an understanding of what moving a camera through 3D space does. Figuring out a kind of a combination of elements that you feasibly could get and how to put them together. So for this, the ground, when we were actually on the floor of this building. This is what the building looks like. It's in downtown LA. We went and leaned over that balcony with a still camera and took a bunch of photos of the ground because we knew we needed the right side of this frame, the ground part. And so we had that. That's all just real photos. And then for the building, because that's moving past, obviously you can't just use photos for that. But fortunately, because of the way architecture is done, it's very repetitive. So we're able to actually 3D model this entire building. Just modeled one floor and duplicated it like 35 times or something like that. And then of course the balcony. Each balcony is the same, but the furniture is a little different. So moved it around, and each they have a little interior, and then rendered it out. Obviously, we have the light coming from the same direction for those elements. Final element, we have Raiden dropping down there. That's once again, that's on a green screen. That's on a wire. Went in and put a green screen underneath him, lit him from the side, hit him with was planning on hitting with a fan. VGHS had the leaf blower. Yeah, this was all done during VGHS. So Freddie was off doing that. I was working on this. The hair on him is fully CG and added on top because we just weren't happy with the way the hair was. So we had to do the CG sim of putting it on there from the light again. You guys can imagine what the green screen would look like. Obviously, he's on a wire. It's a matter of figuring out the position of him relative and what the performance is. He's relatively still compared to the camera, so that works out on a green screen. For the building, modeled from the top to the bottom, made sure it had sort of varying furniture, lit from the right angle, textures from the right angle, and rendered it out once we sort of had a locked camera angle. Now the hardest element, and this is what I largely worked on the building, Kevin largely worked on the hard part, which is the ground down below. Ground is a photo, that's why it looks so realistic. However, there's a lot of docking that needs to be done. Because we're going down, we're getting parallax on the building. So what you effectively do is you take that still photo and remodel the building based on that photo. Now, we didn't only take the photo from on top, but we also took photos of the buildings from the side down below. And so by building up the buildings based on Google Maps, building a model of it, then taking a technique called projection mapping, basically taking a camera in 3D and projecting textures onto it with the lighting all baked. So because the sun was already in the right position, that was exactly how we wanted it. We were able to build it so that when we move the camera, then you get a 3D shot with parallax so that it looks like the camera is moving the way you want to do. So as it goes down the buildings, as you can see, there's effectively a 3D model of this building, and all the cars are moved. The trees you can kind of see here are just like spheres that are lined up to there. And then of course all the cars had to be painted out, and then the cars are also projection mapped and then animated back in there to move around. And then the final element, Freddie and myself standing down there at it. Now the beauty is the lower you get, the faster it's moving, it more accelerates. So the motion blur gets more and more great as we get lower. So it kind of hides the low res nature of it as it gets closer by hiding it in the motion blur. So by the time you get to the bottom, it's just nothing there. So let's go through that one more time. Falling, right now everything is low res, but it's farther away, so it appears to be fine res. As we accelerate, down, 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 building up, and drop lands on me. I don't know how my pants didn't rip there, but he hits me pretty hard. Then figured this is about the time we're like, this is a really violent video. So let's make something funny. We'll have the goat scream in there, which became an obsession of Kevin's. So this effect is pretty simple. The running effect is just a matter of, it's a little bit putsy. Something I'm sure fellow VFX artists can. There's an effect in After Effects and in most compositing programs called find edges. there's almost no use for it. So it's always fun to try to find times to use find edges. This is one of those rare times. So what we do is roto out all of Raiden from each of these shots, which is just a pain in the ass, basically just tracing, and then take the find edges filter and find the basic contrast points and kind of trace around it and make that be like electricity. Then take that and echo the time so that where he's running in one frame is where he was a few frames ago. So you kind of get this like echoey lightning thing. Then add like a foot lightning effect for his feet, and voila. Last little touch is you have to make sure you do it through reflection too. Otherwise, that's not how light works. So make sure it's in both of those, and then with each step he gets like this spark, and you kind of get the final effect there. So Raiden lightning run, super fast. And Eric Lehman is probably one of the most naturally fast people I've ever seen run. Final big series of effects here. This shot, I wanted to make sure we had camera movement because I felt like it would look too still otherwise. So it's filmed in plates. A couple passes of the camera. One pass moving with Freddy kind of moving to position, and then one pass with Eric running position. And then the times of those are blended in different ways so that Freddy is slowing down and Eric is staying at a constant speed. So Eric's shot moves steadily, and then Freddy's shot is then stabilized and comped into Eric's shot. And then he starts swinging. So this shot was at this point was Kevin's baby for about what, 3 weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
It wasn't. This did not take a short amount of time. The basic elements of it were take Freddy. Now he's still, so we've locked him off. He's blended down, so he's completely still. Find that final position and model a model to where he is. And so you have the 3D because we needed to generate those lines. Originally we were going to try to do it by hand, right? With hand draw
those lines. The lines that are drawn on there, that is by hand.
The lines end up being drawn by hand.
But the blood was generated by mesh.
Blood comes out of the mesh. This is a lot of work. Each slice, red line drawn by hand. 3D model that when that slice goes through emits particles. Particles are timed so that they come out inheriting the velocity of the sword, but quickly get pulled into, and this is sort of like a stylistic thing, quickly get pulled into slow motion land. So they hit and they go, because that's something about that just feels so good, right? When something goes fast and you're like, hangs out in the air there. Then sword is then rotoed in so that it passes through, and then each swing as it goes through little displacement maps, so you get those like these little like disturbances in time, all culminating in slice, 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 slice. Throw a couple cuts in there to make it easier on yourself so you don't have to have a completely just like unbroken look. And then we're like, what do you do once you have a perfect, beautiful, raining sliced up blood? You gotta be curious. Even Raiden has to admit he's curious, and just like Looney Tunes, you're frozen in time until something like disturbs that. And so in this case, it's a mega kick. This is this model. The model. How did you get the model of Freddy? Was that just hand modeled?
Literally right before it's a picture, then I
Projection mapped it onto a hand.
Yeah, and I literally took that image and projection mapped onto the geometry. So if you actually pay attention for like 2 frames, you can kind of see the transition. But right afterwards, he becomes chunks. So
right now, this is the real one. It's the picture. And then as he's going in for super kick, we're going to transition into 3D model. Oh, right there. See that frame? Boom. It transitions into, all right, so now it's a model that's been hand modeled by Kevin to kind of line up. You can see sort of on his fingers where the detail is not quite there, but it doesn't matter because it's about to start moving. And then the picture is then projected onto that to kind of get the texture. And then the back side is filled in, kind of just guesstimated on sort of gray, whatever. And then the inside, all those slices it's all been subdivided, and all the inner sides of it. That was using Rayfire, right, to subdivide it?
yeah, I literally just broke up in Rayfire and then.
Rayfire has a feature where it kind of like will auto like slice up your model for you. So slice it up in Rayfire, and then the inner sides get assigned the texture of like kind of like the blood meat texture. So transitions into 3D model, boom, kicks, starts moving, and then of course a healthy amount of motion blur to inherit. And that's a physics simulation then where you're taking an object like where his foot is and going, basically just popping it, giving it a punch, and then activating all that. And of course my favorite touch here. At this point, once again, we're like, this is a super violent shot. So we need to make sure that everyone understands that it's art. So we added a little bit of a rainbow to it. The rainbow in the misty blood makes it
Before
it's
the
like,
YouTube compression, there was a lot of blood here.
yeah, these particles, yeah, YouTube compression kind of ate this up, didn't it?
Yeah, I
But,
mean, you could still
man.
kind of tell what's going on the left side of the frame. But there was a lot of little tiny particles on everything. But because of YouTube compression, it takes a lot of that stuff and averages it out, and then just like disappears. So
shadow pass, everything. And it all comes together. It's like with the reflections in the window, shadow pass, texture of the blood there, and then suddenly out of that effect, we pull back, reverse, sort of like wind him right back in here, and it turns out he was just blending up the meat. He was just, blending up his smoothie. His blender just got a little jammed. So poor Raiden. The end. Yeah, so that's the video. That is Metal Gear Sunrising. Let me know in the comments what else you'd like to hear about, what else you'd like to see commentaries on. Hopefully you enjoyed this little look, and look forward to bringing more of these to you guys. Thanks, guys.